Well, hello everybody, welcome to Jeff's baking blog. Today I'm going to make Gala Pie. I had a request for this from my niece Hannah, so I thought I would give it a try. Now, Gala Pie is a raised pie. It has a hard pastry, which is a hot water crust pastry on the outside, and that is made with flour and fat and water, basically, usually lard or a combination of lard and butter as the fat. And then inside the pie is going to be a mixture of pork meats. So I'm using minced pork, pork sausage meat, some bacon and some ham. And inside that pork is egg. And this is a row of eggs that go down the centre of the pie, and I'm going to cut the ends off my eggs so that every slice should see the yolk of the egg, hopefully. You don't have to, you can just use whole eggs and that will work fine as well. The recipe does take quite a while to make because you have to make the filling, make the pastry, bake it and then let it cool down completely before you can cut it, because this is served cold. I'm also later on going to make some jelly with a little bit of stock and gelatin, and that will be poured into the pie so that it will fill the gaps around the edge of the meat, and some may seep inside as well. So that's going to be it, and I've started off by preheating my oven to 200 Celsius, that's 180 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit. And I've also greased a 2-pound loaf tin, and I've lined it with some parchment paper which overlaps the sides here, and that's to help me take the pie out of the tin once it's baked. So I'll go on to the ingredients, and for the hot watercress pastry I have 450 grams, which is 3 cups based on 150 grams per cup of plain flour, and 100 grams, which is 2/3 of a cup of strong white bread flour. I have half a teaspoon of salt. Then I have 100 grams, which is 7 tablespoons of lard, which I've cut into cubes. I have 75 grams, which is 5.5 tablespoons of butter, also cut into cubes. And in a saucepan I have 200 millilitres, which is 3/4 of a cup plus 4 teaspoons of water, and that's going to have the butter and the lard melted into it. So I'll set those ingredients to the side, because we can't make the pastry yet, it has to be hot when we're working with it. And so we'll go on to the ingredients for the filling, and here I have 300 grams of minced pork. You could use any combination of meats really, and you can make it more or less chunky depending on what you want. That's 10.5 ounces of minced pork, and I also have 10.5 ounces of sausage meat, 300 grams of sausage meat. I have 150 grams, which is 5.25 ounces of ham, which I've chopped into little cubes so that we have some chunky bits in our filling. And then I have 100 grams of streaky bacon, 3.5 ounces, which I have also chopped very finely. And then I have 2 banana shallots, or shallots as they're known in some places, and this is what they look like, just for information. And I have chopped those quite finely. That's 2 of those. I have eggs, which I have boiled, hard boiled, and I've cut the ends off as you can see, And it's difficult to say how many eggs you want because it depends whether you're going to trim them. But I have done a number of eggs, and those which I don't use will simply be used for something else. And then I have 2 tablespoons of fresh parsley which I've chopped up, and I have a teaspoon of salt, a teaspoon of white pepper, half a teaspoon of dried sage, and half a teaspoon of mace. If you don't have mace, you could use nutmeg. Very, very similar. Mace is slightly more subtle flavour. So the first thing we have to do is to mix all of our filling ingredients other than the eggs together. So I'm going to put them all into a large bowl. And then I'm going to use my hands to mix those all together, and it takes a little while to mix them because you want to get them thoroughly incorporated. And with that mixture incorporated, I'm actually going to just take a little piece of it and fry it and taste it so that I can taste the seasoning. You don't need to see me do that, so I'll be back when I've actually had a little taste of the filling. So I tasted that, and it tasted very, very good indeed, and it has the right amount of spice in it. I can feel the pepper on the back of my throat now. So I'm going to set that mixture aside now, ready to fill our pie, and we can go on to make the hot water crust pastry. And for that I need to heat my water with the butter and the lard in it until it is hot and the fat has melted. So I'll do that and then I'll come back. So as you can see, that is very, very hot indeed. And what we're going to do is make a well in the centre. I've put the flours and the salt into this bowl, and I'm simply going to pour that hot mixture into it, and I'm going to stir that around with the handle of a wooden spoon until it starts to come together. And I'm going to keep stirring it until it's cooled down sufficiently that I can use my hand to pull it into a dough. But because it's so hot, that's going to take just a bit of time. And that is still hot, but it's good enough now that I can get my hand in and just knead that and pull it into a dough. And I'm going to tip that out onto my surface so that I can incorporate everything. So we work that until it all comes together. In into a lovely soft dough. And that's looking quite good. So that's quite a nice dough, and I'm going to take maybe about a third of that and put it into a plastic bag. I want to keep that warm while I work with this piece of dough, which is going to fill our loaf tin. And you could actually just push this into the loaf tin and then use your hands to spread it around to fill the shape. So I'll drop this in and then I'll use my fingers to mould it into the pan. Didn't do that very well. So I'm going to push that up the sides, and you can patch it as you need because it's very, very soft. And then with that pushed out like that so that it's lining the tin, what we need to do is take about half of our mixture and push it into the base. Like that. And then make a dent along the centre line. That's going to receive our egg. And then we just take our egg and we place it end to end. That's good. And then we top that with more mixture. So that's good like that. And then we need to roll our pastry out to make the top. So I'm going to put some flour on my surface for this second piece, and I'm going to roll it out so that it's large enough to cover the top of our pie. And I'm going to pick that up and try to place it on the top. And with that on the top, I'm going to press it down onto the edge of the pastry that's already in the tin to seal it like that. And then I'm going to cut off the excess around the edge. And I'm going to crimp that like that, and then I'm going to cut out, if I can, three circles of dough from the top, and the purpose of that is to allow steam to escape as the pie bakes. And if you want to, you can just make a few little leaves or something to go on the top. Don't have to. And you can mark those any way you want, really. And you can take some egg wash, which is, I've just mixed a little bit of milk with some egg, and I'm going to brush it over the top. Like that, and then just put the leaves on if you want to, any way you wish. And brush those too. And then that's ready to go into the oven. So I'm going to put that into the oven and I'm going to bake it for 30 minutes. And after 30 minutes I'm going to reduce the temperature to 180 Celsius, 160 Celsius with a fan, 350 Fahrenheit, and I'm going to bake it for another hour. And after that hour I'm going to test it to see that the internal temperature has cooked the meat through, and I'm going to take it out of the oven and allow it to cool completely in the tin before I try to remove it. At that stage I will then come back and I will make some jelly that we can put into the top. I baked the pie for 30 minutes and then I reduced the temperature and baked it for another hour. So this is what the pie looks like at the moment, and it's still very hot, and I'm going to cool it down completely in the tin. But I have mixed together 300 millilitres of stock. You can use any stock, beef, chicken, vegetable stock, with a packet of gelatin, and that packet of gelatin will actually make jelly up to 570 millilitres apparently. I've taken a little bit out, put it into a dish and put it in the fridge, and after about 5 minutes it had set, so that's good enough. And what I'm going to do, and you can do this while the pie is hot or when it's cold, it's up to you, is I'm going to put some of this liquid into the pie through these holes that we made on the top. Now this is a slow process. You can't simply pour the liquid in and it will go. You have to pour a little bit in and allow the liquid to seep into the pie around the edges and such like, and once it's disappeared from view you can add a little bit more. So I'll just start the process. And I can see that liquid seeping away, and I'll put some into the other holes as well, but just a little bit at a time, because you don't want to flood it. And you don't have to put jelly in your pie. If you've ever eaten a pork pie or a Gala pie, often when you slice it, all around the inside of the pastry there's a thin layer of jelly, and sometimes if there's an air hole in the meat there's some jelly in the meat as well. So I'm going to continue to do that until I think I have enough liquid in. Then I'm going to leave it to cool down completely. Once it's cool enough, I'm actually going to put it in the fridge to cool completely, and then when it is cool, I'll come back, we'll take it out of the tin and we'll slice it and have a look and a taste. So I let the pie cool down after I'd finished putting the jelly in, and then I put it in the fridge, and it's actually been in the fridge for a good 6 hours. Overnight would be fine, just so that the jelly can set up properly. And this is what it looks like, because I've cut it, and it's looking quite good, I think. And I'm just going to cut this piece here and have a taste of it. The meat tastes very, very good indeed. Just the slight hint of the spices, it's not overly spiced. I get a slight hit of the pepper, and the pastry, this is how it should be, nice and hard on the outside and slightly soft where it meets the meat. That's the same sort of pastry as you get with the pork pie. And that tastes good as well, got a nice crunch to it. I think this is very, very good. So that's going to be it for this recipe. I hope you've enjoyed it, and if you have, please give me the thumbs up below the video and click to subscribe to my YouTube channel. In the top right hand corner of the screen there will be an eye that you can click on, and that will take you to a link for this recipe, and I'll put a link below the video as well. And I'll be back with another recipe in the very near future, so until then, happy baking.